I've been watching a course on frontendmasters.com. Love frontendmasters.com. They've got some great stuff. And I found that, obviously with any course, the more you can get hands-on on the keyboard, the better, the more you learn. And in addition, the more you can research and do on your own apart from the course is also really good. So in addition to the course, I'm going through the TypeScript documentation, and they've got some great startup tutorials. And so I'm going to do that in this example. And let's just go ahead and start with a new file like they said. So I'm going to do something like index.ts for TypeScript. That's one of the big differences right away with TypeScript. I should say, why am I studying TypeScript? It's inevitable. There's so many big name frameworks and libraries. Switching to and using heavily the TypeScript paradigm. So adding strict type, not totally strict, but adding type safety as much as possible on top of JavaScript for the purpose of less bugs. And I think one of the biggest purposes in these big frameworks is so that they can do easy migrations and large refactors with a little bit more safety. So I'm learning it. I'm following what other people are doing. And here we go. Very first step that you'll need to do to get TypeScript running is npm install globally the TypeScript in general. And I've already done this, so when I do it, it's going to give me an error, say something to the effect of it's already there. So that part's done for me. And I'm going to make my very first .ts file. This one's going to look exactly like JavaScript. There's nothing in here that's not plain JavaScript. And that's one of the key benefits, in my opinion, about how TypeScript can work. You can incrementally add types and TypeScript syntax on top of JavaScript. So I'm going to save that. I'm using VS Code, which has very nice TypeScript integration. And so we'll start to see some of the benefits of that really quick. So let's do TSC, which is the TypeScript compiler, index.ts. It's going to end up with, actually, let me rename this really quickly so that I don't overwrite my file. Okay, we're going to make it test. I had to rename that because I already had an index.js that I didn't want the TypeScript compiler to overwrite. So I'm going to compile the TypeScript file to JavaScript. It's going to automatically give us a test.js. I'm in the wrong spot. I was one level too deep. So I'm going to run the TypeScript compiler, TSC TypeScript compiler, on test.ts. That's going to automatically make a test.js right here. And let's compare them side by side. So we've got test.js, which is the output of the TypeScript compiler, and the original here, test.ts. Notice that other than taking out a line break, converting let to var, that is the only thing I see that has changed. So not very much. We were able to very easily kind of move over to TypeScript by simply changing .js to .ts, or by making it a TypeScript file, even though we're using plain JavaScript. That's pretty cool. Now, one of the things I like about their quick startup here is that they have one easy example of how you can add a type to this small little function. So we'll do that here in the TypeScript file. We're saying this has got to be a string. And we are using a string to put into that argument for greeter, so no issues here. But what if we change this to be an array? And try to compile it. Okay, so we're getting the real-time error here. It did compile. It didn't stop compiling, which is interesting. We got the error in the output. I want to see the error right here, and I'm trying to figure out why I'm not seeing that. There we go. So Visual Studio Code was just stuck a little bit. I had to close that file, open it back up. Now we've got this really nice argument of type string is not assignable to parameter of type string. So a string array of strings. we made an array of strings here to user, and it's expecting a string only. So that's a pretty big benefit from TypeScript right there. In a large code base, as you're making quick changes, without thinking of it, you might not realize that you are expecting a string in an argument of a function, and you gave it something else. Now, as just kind of a quick wrap up to this, I thought to myself, well, what if I took one of my existing files from an existing project? This is a project I have on my own. It's called Scrapey McScrapeface, and it does some scraping of Craigslist to find me things that I want. I won't say much more about that, but I will say I've got a bug in there, and it's causing an issue. It's mostly working, but there's a bug in there. And so I want to see what if we just change this to be, I apologize. My little setup here has me not able to see rename there. So I'm going to change this to TypeScript, see if we get any immediate benefit from switching it to TypeScript. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did last time. I'm going to close it. Oh, did I rename it incorrectly? Indeed I did. Okay. Now we're going to open it back up. We're going to see if we get any errors. And we do. We get one right here saying block scoped variable DB used before its declaration. That's a TypeScript one. This is obviously block script right here. And the declaration is up here. So I need to dig into that one a little bit more and see why TypeScript is messing with that, because I know that that's working from previous tests. But down here, this is the big one that was a big bug for me that I didn't realize. I'll give you a second to look at that. But the issue was on line 19, results is actually concatenated or abbreviated to res. Res often stands for results. I'm not quite sure when I made that mistake. Some refactor somewhere along the way. And so I wasn't saving the right thing to the database. Pretty cool. Like automatically, we get a few things like that where TypeScript is looking through the code, figuring out what variables are supposed to be used, aren't used, what types they are. In this case, however, I will say that an ESLint rule would have caught that. And ESLint, in my opinion, is quite a bit easier to implement in a system than TypeScript. There's no compilation needed. It's just hints while you're developing. So for whatever that's worth, this first exploration of what TypeScript is and can do should be looked at carefully, and we'll dive deeper and deeper as we go forward. Thanks for joining today.